NicNackers. So the other day I was looking through my canning book, this one, and I saw the recipe for bean soup, and we have a whole bunch of these number 10 cans of the white beans that I got from the LDS storage, and I thought, you know, I probably should do something with those. So I had gotten a ham out and thawed it and diced it up, and I made a big pot of soup. And the recipe in the vol book makes 2 quarts or 5 pints. And I usually can my soups in quarts just because Eric and I will either split one for a lunch for the day, or I'll take it one day, and if I work the next day, I'll take the other half for the next day as well. So I just made that for dinner one night, and Becca said that was the best bean soup that she had ever had. Not that we make a lot, but for her to say that, 16-year-old, I thought, you know, I'm gonna can some of that up. She likes it, and she's doing school and can pull that out for a nice easy lunch for herself as well. So the recipe calls for about a cup of beans per quart. So I'm gonna let you know, I normally, when I can my beans, I don't follow the tested recipe for canning beans. I do the dry method, and I know that when I'm doing my dry beans per quart, you use about a cup of beans. So to me, that's a lot of beans per quart for something that's supposed to be soup. So when I made it the other night, I added a bunch of water, and I think that the way that I'm going to do it this time is I'm going to plan for about a half a cup of beans per quart so that I get a little soupier soup. When I canned this the other night, I actually just cleaned them, and I'll grab a quart real quick to show you. I canned this up the other night, and you can see there's a lot of beans in that quart of soup. So the only difference I did when I canned this up was it calls for cooking for 2 hours. I didn't pre-cook these for 2 hours, but I did do the soak. So they should have already soaked up a lot of liquid and been good to go. But it's still really beany, which is great. I mean, that's good, but that's not soup. You know, that's more like ham and beans to me. That's not bean soup. So I'm going to plan on canning 14 quarts of this, which means I will need, if I'm going to plan on the half a cup of beans per quart, I'm going to need 7 cups of beans. So I'm getting ready to get these beans sorted and washed, and thought I'd bring you along as well. Let's see if you can see that down there. So the way that I sort my beans is I measure out a cup of beans, and I put them on a clear plate and just kind of spread them out even there. And you can see there's a pinto bean right there, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with a pinto bean being in there, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that. But any of these that are broken up, if there's any weird color to them, when I sorted through these the other day, I did find a stone, which doesn't happen very often, but I did find one. So you need to keep a lookout for those little rocks as well. I can see some of this, I don't know if that's coming up on there, but you can see the little flakes of the beans that are broken off. I just left them in the last time. I mean, they're not going to hurt anything, so. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's not going to be because we're not perfect. So that looks pretty good to me. I just throw all the broken bits away, and there's my first cup ready. I'm going to put in my pot over here, and I'll continue doing that until I have 7 cups sorted. All right, so now that the beans are sorted, we are going to rinse them off. You can put them in a pot of water. I've done it both ways. You just want to get all that film washed off, that dirt. Stuff, and then I'll put them in the big pot here. And we're just gonna fill those couple inches over the top. And then I'm going to put it on the stove to get to boiling. And once I get it to boiling, I'll turn the heat off and I'll let them set for an hour. So our beans are rinsed, they're filled back up again, and I did about equal parts of beans and water, it looks like, somewhere around there. I might be a little off on the water, but that's okay. If I need to, I can add more. So now I have it back on the stove, and the instructions say to add your ham, and it's going to be 1/4 cup per quart. So since I have 14 quarts here, that's going to be, let's see, 4, 8, 12, and a half, 3.5 cups. I hope I did that right. So there's enough for 4 quarts. Enough for 8 quarts. Enough for 12 quarts. And 13, 14. That'll be about a half a cup. All right, so there we go. So there's our ham. Now it does call for onion. It's about a half a cup of onion. I don't have any fresh onions, and the other day when I canned the ham and bean soup up, I used the last of my dried onions. So this batch is not going to have any onions in it at all. And I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of red pepper flakes for every quart. Because for 2 quarts it calls for half of a hot red pepper. I don't have a fresh hot red pepper, so I'm just going to use my red pepper flakes. When we made it and I canned it up, when I made it for dinner, I put in the equivalent of about a 1/4 cup for each quart. So plus salt and pepper, and that the heat index was right on for us with that. So I'm going to grab my red pepper flakes, my salt and my pepper. I'll add those in, and this is going to cook for 2 hours. So for the red pepper flakes, a 1/4 cup per quart. So that's going to be just like if I was doing a 1/4 cup of the ham. So that's going to be 3.5 teaspoons. 1, 2, 3. And a half, and it's going to be the same amount of pepper. And let's see, I think I did a teaspoon of salt for every quart. So that's going to be 14. Let's see what we can do. Let me figure that out in tablespoons. So there's 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon. So we'll just go like this. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14. There we go. So that should be enough for all of our quarts. So we'll stir that up. I'm a little bummed that I don't have any onion, but life goes on, right? So we're going to let that cook for about 2 hours, well, at least 2 hours, and then I'll start jarring it up. And the last batch is going to cook obviously for longer than that, because as the first batch is pressure canning, I'll be keeping this warm. So the second batch, the beans might be a little mushy. I'm okay with that. All that's going to do is just kind of thicken the soup. It's not going to affect the flavor or anything, so that should be fine. So I will see you in a couple of hours when this is ready to jar up.